podcast put together with Red Raider fans in mind. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3.
Thank you for spending part of your afternoon with us alongside Mike Gustafson and Clint Scott. I'm Aaron Dickens. We're joining you today until 6:30. We'll have coverage of the Texas Rangers as they continue their series against the Oakland A's. Our coverage will start at 6:30 for you here on Double T 97.3. First pitch at 7:05 p.m. Rangers winners yesterday, 8-7. And another RBI for Mr. Josh Young.
Yeah, another extra base knock, too.
Another extra base hit.
What's the stat? He's got something unprecedented. He's the first Ranger in history to...
I think he has the most extra base hits among, Rangers rookies in their first 5 games or whatever it is.
Yep, because he's up to 2 homers and I think 4 doubles. And I mean, that one he hit yesterday, that's a booming shot to the wall, deep left center field. And I mean, I'm amazed at not having seen him every day since college, obviously. We just sort of get the highlights from his minor league time, but it's a bigger swing. There's a little more swing and miss, but he's wrecking stuff these days. And I think when he settles in, probably lays off some breaking balls and does some of that kind of stuff, just some breaking ball chases right now. All of those things that I would think would come with 3 weeks in the big leagues, and man, he could be a fearsome part of that lineup. And I've said this ever since they signed him. Great in so many ways. Fun for us out in here in Lubbock. Got a Red Raider doing good things, but also like relevant to the Rangers getting decent again. And so there's so much good about it. And him destroying baseballs is just a nice little add-on to the summer.
We'd love to hear your thoughts and comments today on the Yates Flooring Center chat line at doublet97.3.com. We will talk, of course, some Tech football today, some general college football, some Rangers, maybe some realignment.
Yeah, how about that?
Due to a comment from the head man of the football program, Joey McGuire. We'll share those comments with you in the program today. And, of course, get to all of your thoughts and your comments on the Yates Flooring Center chat line at doublet97.3.com. How would you classify your mood or your emotion heading into this game Saturday, Texas Tech at NC State?
I think I get more, as it gets closer, I think I get, and this is probably a pattern for me, but start thinking, you know what? We can find a way to do this. We can go win this game. You know what I mean? And I can't give you a bunch of football reasons why, but I don't know, just the giddiness. I don't think I have crazy expectations, but I'm like, I've got a little optimism about it. I do.
I would say that.
I think I've taken them to cover. I'm not a gambling guy. I'm not opposed to it.
We'll do some of that later today.
Okay.
I guess
we're actually placing wagers?
Well, not in terms of I think it's just for more bragging points than anything else, but I think this is a station-wide effort. So we'll get to that at some point in the show, provided I remember. I think with me it's, we've beat this to death, but we knew that this non-conference schedule was going to be much more challenging than last year's, with 2 ranked teams on the schedule. I was nervous going into last weekend, not only because it was a very kind of even matchup, but also because a loss to Houston, especially at home, is going to sting a lot more than a loss to NC State on the road will, right? Just because it's in-state, they're a future conference opponent, you have history with them, you kind of feel like your program is superior to theirs because you've been in the Power 5 and have never really left major conference football, whereas they spent, 20-some-odd years, 25-some-odd years in the wilderness. Whereas Saturday, I'm at peaks, man. You get this kind of free spin at the wheel. Yeah. It's a road game. You're a double-digit underdog. I expect them to go in there and play well, and I hope that they win. If things don't go your way, hey, you play Texas. That's a gigantic game. You've kind of held serve so far. You did what you needed to do. And, I don't know that there would have been many Tech fans that were just like absolutely gutted if you go 2-1 in your non-conference play. If you would have said, offer that up in June, right, or July, especially if you would have said, hey, your starting quarterback is going to be injured, I think most folks would have said, okay, that's fine. And so hope they win. I'll be pulling for them. I'm going to be living and dying with every play, just like normal on Saturday. But as we sit here on Wednesday, I just kind of feel at peace with the whole thing. I'm really more just kind of excited to see what they can do.
Yeah, I agree. It's where that Houston. Well, I'll say it this way: Vegas had, Tech's over under at 5 or whatever it was back in all through the summer, 5.5, whatever. And I don't think this was one of the games that Vegas considered one of the 5, and that's probably bears itself out in the 9-10 point spread right now. And so, I mean, to me, it's there's some house money involved after taking care of Houston. Houston was the proverbial swing game. We talked about it last week. Probably talked about it in July. In terms of, man, gonna be hard to get to 6 if you can't find that.
Yeah,
you can't get that Houston. And I talk about 6 in terms of just beating Vegas's expectations and being bowl eligible. Hope it's 7 or 8. That'd be great. But as we talk about sort of our own hopes for this team and hopes for the Joey McGuire era, and that they can get bowl eligible and just keep right on keeping on and recruiting better. There's every reason to be excited about it. Go play with house money and see what happens this weekend. I love the thought of us making them nervous.
Really, and maybe they feel differently in Raleigh, but I kind of feel like they're the ones that have the pressure this weekend, right? They're the top 15 team. They're the home team. They're protecting an 11-game home winning streak. They're the 10-point favorite. Really, Texas Tech, there's no pressure here. You just go up there and take a swing,
go get after their rear ends, and I get as good as the locker room stuff was from McGuire, and we talked about the Twitter stuff. It would, it's hard to say this, but I bet your first road game, Joey McGuire, is pretty good too.
Think so?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, because those type of environments.
Hope he saves something for the next game.
Well, we talked about this. The idea that can you do that 12 times a fall? I don't know, but I would think that he's pretty good at going at doing the whole "it's us against the world," man. We walk down that ramp. Nobody's gonna give us a snowball's chance in Hades. Let's go get them. Probably a little better than that little version there, but it's easy to circle the wagons.
You know what might be like a really good way to describe McGuire as a head coach, right? Because with Leach, he was this kind of brilliant offensive mind, right? Quirky personality. With Cliff was this or that. Wells was whatever. McGuire might just be an elite button pusher. In terms of like recruiting, pressing all the right buttons, staff pressing all the right buttons, and then motivating his players, pressing all the right buttons.
Well, he's definitely got a feel for, yeah, that's a good way to say it. He's definitely got a feel for people.
More Tech Talk next.
The podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hi there, it's The Juice. Your look at today's biggest sports headlines brought to you by our friends at Specs Wine, Spirits, and Finer Foods. 2 convenient locations here in town. 4th Street and the West Loop behind the Whataburger. And then also Slide Road and 69th Street. And SpecsOnline.com, always available. Texas Rangers will take on the Oakland A's tonight to continue their 2-game midweek series. Rangers won yesterday 8-7. They've won 3 of their last 4 ball games. They'll look to kind of continue that momentum this evening against the Athletics First pitch, 7:05. Our pregame coverage will begin for you at 6:30 here on Double T 97.3. High School Fan Zone, yours at 7 on 100.7 The Score. Texas Tech, for the first time since August 30th, the volleyball team will be back at home for the Red Raider Classic Tournament. That begins tomorrow and runs through the 17th at the USA. Fans will have a chance to catch 4 Tech volleyball matches this weekend as the Red Raiders welcome in SMU, Oral Bob, Arizona State, and UT Rio Grande Valley to Lubbock. 2 high-profile non-conference series have been scuttled because of the impending departure of Oklahoma and Texas to the SEC, which is currently scheduled for 2025. The SEC announced today that it quote, directed Georgia and Tennessee to postpone scheduled games with Oklahoma because the Sooners are on their way to the SEC. Georgia has already filled that spot on their schedule. So next September the 9th, Georgia fans had been looking forward to welcoming in Oklahoma, right, to Athens. High-profile matchup. Really enhances the value of your season tickets.
Sure.
They've replaced the Sooners with the Fighting David Letterman's Ball State.
How about that?
Oklahoma has filled that open spot on their schedule with a bit more of an interesting team, but not by much, SMU.
Yeah, home and home. And I was curious about that. Is SMU going to try to play it on campus? But I haven't seen that. I would be a little surprised, but I guess if you do play that on campus, you can charge lots of money for that because I would think that's a pretty high demand ticket in SMU land, as opposed to going over to Jerry World, and they wouldn't fill that, I don't think, but they would get,
sell more tickets.
Yeah, it's a heck of a lot more than what they get on campus. But I don't know. If I'm SMU, I may want to get that on campus for that very reason to go, no, this is welcome to Dallas.
It'll be a high-profile SEC Pac-12 matchup.
I like it. I see what you did there.
Mountain West Conference Commissioner Craig Thompson, the longest tenured active FBS commissioner, will step down on December 31st after leading the league for nearly 24 years. 66 years old, he's the only active FBS commissioner with more than 30 years of experience leading a multi-sport conference. He's a member of the College Football Playoff Management Committee, and it's essentially riding off into the sunset after helping shepherd through the 12-team playoff format.
And which was a big deal. The timing of it's just interesting, and the idea that a lot of rumors about that conference really getting plundered here. Should the Pac-12 thing try to stay in place?
We've had a scuttled. We've had a plundered.
I know. Seems like we need
a pirate theme here on the.
So at least need a sea shanty,
don't we? The juice. Hey, the juice is brought to you by our friends at Specs Wine, Spirits, and Finer Foods. If you want to cosplay as a pirate, you'll need some rum. Go to Specs.
Yes.
Get some.
They've got.
What are you shaking your head for? That was genius, Clint.
Yeah, it was. That was a good, solid segue. And they've got that was a segue worthy of the 145th market right here.
Yeah.
And you know what? They've got a good.
Somewhere there's a Specs executive going, you know what? We're really getting our money's worth here.
Yes, we are, and that because I can tell you, Specs has an aisle of that rum that you're talking about. That's not. Don't just go over there and go, oh, we only got one thing to choose from. No, it's a smorgasbord of wine of rum.
Everything.
Yeah, of everything really. But yeah.
Love to get your thoughts and comments on the Yates Flooring Center chat line at doublet973.com or through the Double T 97.3 mobile app presented by Happy State Bank. This on the chat line. Y'all asked the question, can McGuire keep it up the whole season? The motivation, the pregame rousing speeches. They say, how many games does a 6A school have to play to win state? I think it's close to 16 games. I bet the coach can.
Oh yeah, I think so. And I said that yesterday. I said if anybody can do it, it's him because he's got that kind of energy. And I'm not saying this to be disparaging of Cliff, but I would think that's not how he preps a team. You know, I mean, I don't know what he was like in the locker room, but it's not what we're hearing on tape, I'm guessing, from Coach McGuire. But some guys are built for that and some aren't. I bet Leach wasn't great in the locker room.
Well, and I think
pre-game.
It changes, right? I think high school is one animal, college is another,
Sure.
and then NFL is something else. I think in the NFL, you know, you're a professional, right? I don't know that the, you know, win one for the Gipper kind of stuff really works a lot in the NFL. And maybe college is kind of like this sort of halfway hybrid deal between the two. You know, I think they're great. I mean, no matter what, like I'm waiting for that cinematic recap to come out.
I know, I'm with you.
You know, full screen, blaring in my headphones.
I've replayed that about 50 times.
I mean, goosebumps, the whole deal. It's great.
Yeah, the clip yesterday, or the one that came out, I guess, from the Houston game about you being built for this, and they will break.
Yeah.
It may be something we could get Clint to play. It's only about 20 seconds long. With that, maybe we get that later in the show. But if you haven't heard it was like, you know, I'm sitting there checking that thing. I might have had some headphones on, you know, and I'm sitting there at the desk. Hey, what's going on? Okay. All right. Pulse quickens.
Yeah.
Baby. Let's go.
It's top notch.
And so I'm thinking, yeah. And so I believe that in high school, he probably did it 16 times. At Texas Tech, he's going to be capable of doing that. And some guys that are well-read and, you know, that have their narratives and can tie into that can do that in a way. You said professionals probably don't do it. It's hard to imagine. You know, Belichick's deal's not going to. It's going to be I need to go. And don't underestimate media, Bill Belichick, for who he is in the locker room, because you know you can get all the stories from Lawrence Taylor and those dudes that talk about, oh no, he had their full attention, but it wasn't because he was yelling and screaming and all that. It was because he had my paycheck in his hand, right?
Right.
I mean, if you don't get it done in the professionals, we're going to replace you. Yeah.
This in the Yates Flooring Center chat line. This person says, Dickens is the dorkiest sports guy to ever exist. That's fine. I'll own that.
Well, I wonder what prompted that.
Raiders dad says this, get paid on 3, LOL. Pretty funny. This in the chat line, how do we eliminate extra timeouts, momentum killers by teams faking injuries like we saw this past Saturday? I feel like Dan Holgerson is coaching a bunch of flopping soccer players, and he got away with it. That's from Radiation Station. Well, he got away with a loss, right? That's the most important thing. And I don't like this answer, but I don't know what you can do, right? Because you're not going to punish injured players.
And I think it's hard to regulate against the bad side of it. You
can't hook them up to a polygraph while they're writhing on the field. Hey, are you really hurt? Or are you fibbing?
Right.
You know,
I'm sure that there are competition committees and rules committees that would love to figure out a way to do that, because that's been a thing. It was a thing in the NFL 25 years ago. I mean, when the Bills started doing the hurry up stuff with Thurman Thomas and Kelly and those dudes in the early 90s. That was a thing in the NFL, man. Everybody suddenly got a little cramp or a little, I rolled my ankle. You know, Houston, you could see it the other day in their first series. They couldn't get lined up. That dude's looking panicked
suddenly
over the sideline, and all of a sudden, crap. And, you know, like, yeah, that BS.
Rangers baseball headed your way at 6:30 here on Double T 97.3. This is Tech Talk.
It's every Red Raiders' favorite podcast. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hi there, it's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and DoubleT973.com with Mike Gustafson and Clint Scott. I'm Aaron Dickens with you today until 6:30. I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments today on the Yates Flooring Center chat line at DoubleT973.com. You can also weigh in through the Double T 97.3 mobile app presented by Happy State Bank, and all guests appear via the Benchmark hotline. You know, we were discussing the cinematic recap video that Tech, and this is not, they did this last year, and it might have even began earlier than that. I don't know when exactly it started, but either way, they're tremendous. It helps when you win.
About a 3-minute long video.
Sure.
Highlights from the
field. If you're a Tech fan, you're going to enjoy it.
Oh, yeah.
And it got me thinking, and we'll hear some of that later on in the show for folks that didn't catch it. And really, you should really go watch it with. But
and you can watch something like that on Twitter without being on Twitter.
Yeah, or it's on YouTube too. They've got it on their YouTube channel,
Even
Tech
better.
Athletics.
Yep.
And it got me thinking because you were at the Spike Dykes reunion dinner on Friday, right after our show, and it's in many ways, man. 20 years, 25 years isn't that long of a time.
No,
like if you went to if somebody from 1997 traveled forward in time, went to a baseball game, they would recognize it, right? There may be DH or some minor thing, but for the most part, they would recognize the game. It wouldn't be some kind of dramatic head slapping, like what's going on here. And on the field, the same can be said for college football. Maybe the offense is a bit different, right? Formations and stuff,
passing,
right?
Everything's out of the shotgun. Probably be the biggest adjustment.
But it would be recognizable. But off the field, it's not, right? To say nothing of like the NIL stuff and the transfer portal, just the way these programs are made up. Because, I mean, think about, telling Spike Dykes in 1997, hey, eventually people in your position and your football programs are going to be producing a lot of content, right? To be consumed online, on video platforms, on your telephones. Because, like, if you're ranking them, right, and this seems weird on some level, but if you're, like, ranking them in terms of, hey, the people that are most important to your program, I bet the head people in charge of, like, the video editing and that kind of stuff, I bet they're higher up than most people think, right? Not that they're more important than any of your on-field coaches, right? I'm not saying that. But I mean, think about how many people interface with the program through that stuff. Not just fans, right? But other media types, recruits, right? The talk about the front door of the university's football program, right? Well, I mean, that video content might be the doorbell, or extend the analogy some other way. And that would have just been bizarre to even comprehend, impossible to comprehend 25 years ago.
That's a great point. One of the things that, we talked a little bit yesterday, sort of, condescendingly, as we often do, but the comment was specific to the clip of TCU, like their little hype video the other day that involved like the guys pushing lawnmowers and some of that stuff. I'm like, whoa. And you go, whoa, that's not something that would have come out of this program at Tech right now.
And I haven't seen anybody like defend that. I mean, I've seen A&M people defend
the yell leader stuff.
The yell leader, like, hey guys, we basically reuse the same jokes over and over again. That's that's our thing, right? It's still super cringe, but okay. I haven't heard anybody from TCU say, well, actually, no, this is a play off of a hype video from 1977 or something, right?
It's throwback weekend.
It's just dorky.
Right. Well, you had the clip yesterday of me saying Caucasians everywhere. That's what it was. That's fine. We need to hang on to that. Keep that in the permanent folder. But I just can't imagine the recruit side of that. And you said it very well, because back in the day, a recruit's contact was really going to come primarily through that recruiting coach, not the coach who was recruiting them and those type things. And now, man, and then later on it became, all right, text messages, hey, and now this thing's, this can be completely passive. This isn't from, Coach Smith, the assistant coach to the player, John, this is our program out to the world. I mean, you're trying to recruit ninth graders with this, right? You're trying to recruit seventh graders with this. You're trying to create, the brand, and I don't mean the brand the way Coach McGuire uses it, but just the brand like that some kid sitting in Washington's going, I know what the double T is. Mm-hmm. I know that's Texas Tech. And that was a hard thing to capture 40 years ago. If you were never on national TV, that sort of thing. And now, these type things, some kid's following it, turns out to be a player, and you're in the game. And it's it really, really has changed the landscape in a way that you just said. It's a fascinating thing, and it's probably changed. I mean, it's much bigger than college sports. But I would think that, can you imagine Coach Dykes, what he would have said? Now, the first time it helped him recruit, he probably would have gone, hey, you get some people over there and figure that out. But, I can just imagine what Coach Dykes' description of YouTube would have been.
Right, yeah, because if you think about it, it's just the job is so much different now than it was 25 years ago. And I don't know that the same, significant change would have existed 97 to 72. I felt like, and I could be wrong, and maybe this is recency bias, which is a fair thing to lob. So if you disagree, let me know why on the chat line. But I mean, NIL, transfer portal, social media. I mean, cameras everywhere, every game televised.
It's funny because you and I would say the opposite about something like music. All right, if you go back to my senior year in 1985 and go 35 years prior, it was 1930s and Guy Lombardo or whatever. Then you go forward, the gap between this 35 years and that 35 years is way different. But what you're saying about so in other words, I don't think it applies to everything, but boy, in the world you're talking about, that's a huge change.
Yeah, it's like the Wonder Years, right? Right, because it came out in 88, mm-hmm. and it was set 20 years previous, mm-hmm. so it was set in 68. And man, 88 to 68 seems way more dramatic of a change than 22 to 2002.
Well, yeah, and because, I mean, think about it. Is anybody doing a show right now? Of course, all the new shows and stuff will be premiere. Is anybody doing a show about 2002 right now?
No. Yeah, no.
Not that I know of. You may do a but we're not talking about a documentary about something that happened at that time.
A drama, comedy.
Yeah, we're talking about just a sitcom.
A telenovela.
Yeah, a sitcom set in 2002 is just not a thing that I can think of.
Love to get your thoughts and comments today on the Yates Flooring Center chat line at doublet973.com. All guests appear via the Benchmark hotline. Somebody says this. This is from Josh. I can almost guarantee that Tech has a dedicated media agency, and they probably pay a lot of money for videos like that. It's not likely that video was made in-house. We'll see. I asked. If we get an answer, I'll share it.
Yeah, I thought it was. I thought it was made in-house, but when I was a kid, NFL Films was a revelation. All right, and I mean the entity. The NFL Films, the highlights each week, they were the first ones to sort of mic up players and get the grunting and the, and field cameras and the ball, just all the things that are just day to day. It was Steve Sable and his father, Ed Sable. And so there's always been a fascination with the game of football, and I'm sure it had a lot to do with its booming popularity over the last 60 years. But I don't think that had ever really been captured in a college sense, but it feels more like that now when you start getting locker room access and coaches mic'd up and sideline noise and some of that. Feels like we're closer to that now than we ever had it.
More Tech Talk next.
The podcast put together with Red Raider fans in mind. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hi, how are you? Good afternoon. It's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com. Fun fact, that was the song that Clint and his wife first danced to at their wedding. That was their first dance, that song.
That's true, and we still say goodnight throughout the whole house. Like, good night, Crow.
Yes, exactly.
Good night, Tupac. Good night, Louie.
Love to get your thoughts and comments on the Yates Flooring Center chat line at Double T 97.3.com. Joey McGuire, head football coach of the Texas Tech football team, made a radio appearance in the Metroplex earlier today, which is not in and of itself groundbreaking or newsworthy of us bringing you.
Speaks well of his early season start.
Sure,
probably.
yeah.
If he's 0-2, they're probably not calling it.
It's always good to have the head man or head woman spread the good word about their program far and wide. And I don't know the context that generated this response. I don't know what the question was. I don't know what the prompt was. But McGuire offered up an interesting opinion, informed guess. I'll let you decide. Here is what he had to say earlier today on Dallas radio about the Big 12 and realignment.
No, I think we are with our new commissioner, and I think he brings a different perspective. I think he's being very aggressive. I think, I don't know this. This is just my opinion. I think in the next weeks to months that you're going to see some additions to the Big 12 as it goes, and we use it.
How about that?
Hello there. Yeah.
Well, what do you think of that there, Gus?
Speaks to our conversation about the month of September being there is a precedent for September realignment news. In fact, a pretty good precedent. So and he qualifies that. He says, I don't know anything. It's just me. But that's, he's also around. He probably gets to swap, have conversations with some informed opinion makers, or some, I wouldn't even say opinion makers, just some informed sources, right?
Yeah, do I think that that McGuire hasn't? He's the head football coach, right? He talks with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know that there's been some kind of meeting where Hocutt has had a PowerPoint presentation and say, okay, guys, this is what's happening. Just, hey, loose lips sink ships. I don't think there's been anything formal like that. But do I think that he's talked to people? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that he's just kind of spitballing that. Hey guys, I read on a message board that this might. Yeah, I don't think that's what's happening here. And Gundy has kind of hinted around this as well, right? He's talked about, hey, the Big 12 got a bright future, et cetera, and he has not been as explicit as McGuire was today. But
yeah, well, I like the sound of that. I'm interested in the next domino, or the first domino, however you want to say it. I guess the next, if you want to think about adding the 4 teams last year. It was about a week ago that we had the Yormark comment that you and I probably read way too much into, or at least I did. The idea about we're talking about a team that's really good at basketball and football too, and blah 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 blah. I think you just described Arizona. Could just be confirmation bias, right? Could just be us wanting to hear what we think we want to hear. But my goodness, if I'm chasing that Arizona rabbit hole. That most certainly adding a couple of those, any of the Four Corners programs cements this as the 3rd best football league, I would think. Us in the ACC, at least. It probably does away with the 5th league. But it makes it most certainly the number 1 basketball league. My goodness.
Well, in perception, as we've talked about before, perception lags behind reality. But I don't think there's any question that even right now, you're the third best football conference. And heck, if we're purely talking about on the field, you might be the second best.
And we've talked about how that's measured, and there are formal rating systems for that. A lot of times, the just the gut reaction is how good are the best teams, how good are their brands. Like you threw that out there last week. If Texas and OU are at the top of the leagues, Big 12's down a little bit. We'd probably do the same thing from our part of the world if at the top of the Big Ten is not the name Ohio State or Michigan or perhaps Penn State, right? Someday when Nick Saban retires and goes off to the lake, what's that? Will we say that about the SEC? Probably not, because Georgia appears to be more than willing to step in and take their place. Oh, we haven't really talked about Georgia yet. Goodness, dude,
It's going to be a problem.
They're doing what Bama's been doing, where you take where you got the quarterback come back, but you graduate about 7 first-round picks. I mean, I'm exaggerating there, but you graduate.
Not by much.
Yeah, you graduate in a historic draft group, win a national championship. Oh, man, all new faces, blah, blah, blah. And then they come out and beat Oregon 49-3. A true freshman safety is making a stupid highlight reel play. Oh, and that quarterback who's now a year older throws for about 380. You go, oh, you know what? I think they're going to be just fine there. And I mean, it just feels like what we've been seeing out of Alabama. And if you're really tired of Alabama and Georgia in the title game, well, bad news. It feels like it's another year set up for those two.
Earlier in the program, somebody asked if the cinematic recap was produced in-house or if it was outsourced. I can confirm from a direct source, Robert Giovanetti, that is all done in-house.
See,
So,
I thought it was because
that's what I assumed too, but I wanted to check.
That's fair, and it's good that you did that. I mean, because we've had some people, Texas Tech have had some people leave this staff, students or young graduates, and the the age of that group. I mean, I don't know exactly, but when you're around that group, it's like these guys are my kids' age. My son's 27 and Savannah's 22, but that it's not a bunch of old gray hairs doing that content, and that may be why it's so relevant and just hits the mark with the college kids.
Real quick, back to Georgia. They just obliterated Oregon, right?
Yeah.
49-3. They played Samford this past weekend. It was 30-0 at the half, which is pretty dominant. But you would think with a program, a roster like Georgia, you could name your score. They scored 3 points in the second half. It was 33-0 final. They had a bunch of 3-and-outs and a missed field goal. And it just goes to show you can have a roster full of 5 stars, the national championship hanging right from the rafters, but they're very, very topical.
Very timely, yeah.
But it's a week-to-week sport, man,
Yep.
and things happen and momentum shifts, and sometimes you just don't play well.
And that's your coachable. There's your footage.
Sure.
After the Samford game, they get to go in there and show that second half footage and go, okay, fellas.
More Tech Talk next.
It's every Red Raiders' favorite podcast. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hi, how are you? Good afternoon. It's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com with Mike Gustafson and Clint Scott. I'm Aaron Dickens. We'd love to hear your thoughts and comments in the Yates Flooring Center chat line at Double T 97.3.com. All guests appear via the Benchmark hotline. Somebody opened up a bit of a sticky topic with some comments about Mahomes and the Ring of Honor about 20 minutes ago. Some folks have responded on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Somebody points out that Gabe Rivera was also sub 500 as a Tech football player. True. He was also inducted into the Ring of Honor 30 some odd years after he graduated.
Yeah.
Not
and
6.
College Football Hall of Fame.
Sure. This on the chat line. Kind of bums me out when people say Mahomes, quote, didn't do anything at Tech. Just not sure how the defense sucking as bad as they did is Mahomes' fault. His offensive stats are pretty impressive. Too bad he wasn't also a linebacker.
Yeah, I remember back in the day when that stuff was going on, people asked me about it. I go, can he tackle somebody? Because those were historically bad defenses.
I mean, quarterbacks are viewed differently, period. I mean, you can say it's not right or you don't like it, but that's the way that it is. And then it's not like they lost every game scoring 50 points, right? How many West Virginia games where he just did not look great? And the offense didn't look great either. Or the Iowa State game there in Ames. It is what it is. But I will continue to maintain that it seems like as time passes on and we get further from those two seasons, the talent around Mahomes gets less and less impressive. And my assumption is that 10 years from now, people will be talking as if they had to bring over some 7th grade, B-teamer from Laura Bush Middle School to help fill the gaps.
Patrick Mahomes had to score a touchdown going 2 ways up in the snow, and the end zones were on a hill.
Well, we could. Because
if
you're trying to compare somebody across the era, where was that defense relative? What was it ranked in the nation?
It was terrible. The defenses were very bad.
One of those teams was near the bottom of.
But somebody said earlier that he didn't have good offensive lines, right? And DeAndre Washington ran for 1,200 yards in 2015.
We would love to have that.
Yeah, this in the chat line. From Paul, Mahomes was great. The team around it was not. Baker went to Oklahoma and won a Heisman because the talent around him was amazing. Baker was not even the best player on his team. This in the chat line from someone. Josh Young needs a triple crown and a gold glove to be in the same air as Mahomes.
As a professional, yeah.
This on the chat line. Multi-year All-Star, but Josh Young was an All-American and Player of the Year. He has the college credentials. The pro credentials are just a bonus.
Yep, that's right. His college credentials are better than Patrick's, no doubt.
This in the chat line from Raiders Dad. I would argue that when Pat was here, he could have played almost every position better than who was playing there aside from linemen. Hell, he was probably better than every basketball player we had here. So, again, it's every other athlete on campus
Superman
was 5'2" and ran a 6'5" 40. Except for Pat Mahomes.
I did see Pat Mahomes play baseball. So don't, and he suited up and played. And remember the inning he pitched? Remember the 3 hitters? He actually came into a game and Tech was. There was a good article in the Athletic about this.
It was a great article. Yeah.
Because it went back and interviewed, and he came in the game. It was like a 6-2 game. He pitched the 9th college debut. I think he'd had some pinch hit at bats, and it was like walk, hit by pitch, walk, and one of the hit. And maybe the hit by pitch was on a 3-0 count. Dude's up there just, okay, I'm in the rocking chair, got the 3-0 take, slide, whack in the ribs. Pat was all over the place. And he had a lot of stuff going on in his delivery. There was a lot of moving parts. The kind of thing that you need fall ball, you need time,
find
reps. Yeah. And it probably blew dudes' doors off in White House or whatever, and it did. And he was drafted. And there was plenty of upside there because you draft a dude like that and go, that guy's a good athlete, bloodlines and all. We're going to take a flyer in the Tigers or wherever, took him in the 37th round or whatever. Knowing that he was probably going to go play football, and obviously he did, but you just never know. And, my son Brooks caught his bullpens, a lot of them.
So we're doing this thing, I guess, now on the station where every show picks 3 NFL games, and these games are given to us. We have to pick them against the spread. And Clint, you are
is he in the opposition?
Well, yes, he is part of the bottom line contingent. So normally I would include
No, I'm on your team. Let me pick for you guys.
No. Normally I would include Clint because I feel like he's just as much of a part of the program as I am or you. But since he is officially here the enemy, right, he is not privy to
our sort of
his
analysis.
opinions. Yes.
Our algorithms.
Yeah. And so we have to agree. This can't be just like I pick this and you pick that.
all right.
It has to be a Tech Talk consensus.
You'll find that I probably don't have a strong opinion in this matter.
Yeah, me neither.
I'm probably going to be easily swayed. And we're doing spreads or just straight
Against
up?
Oh
the
man,
spread.
I want to see you
Oh,
guys
God.
completely have different sides, just head-to-head
vehemently.
debate. Yeah,
All right,
fisticuffs.
the Lions at the
Hold my
Commanders.
headphones. Lions at Commanders.
Yeah, the
Commanders
Lions-
are probably a 3-point favorite.
Lions are a 1.5 point favorite.
Well, then I take the Commanders
Yeah, you take the. See, I would go Lions.
to cover on the road.
Headphones off,
Minus
fist
1.5?
flying.
That does it, pal.
We're done.
Yes. Get Lynn in here.
All right, I'll defer to you here, Gus.
All right,
You want-
so you said road. That's Lions at Commanders. Lions are a
1.5.
road favorite.
Yeah, 1.5. I mean, 1.5 is essentially a toss-up.
Why do you hate our boy Wentz?
I do hate the Commanders. There's really, not enough bad things could happen to that franchise.
Especially as long as the current owners in place.
I feel like this one will be easy for us to pick. Raiders -2 at Arizona. We're going with the Cardinals here,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
Cardinals +2.
And they need that game
Yeah, they do. Steelers at New England.
because that'll be the second week in a row they're playing at home. They don't need to go 0-2 at home to start the season.
Steelers at New England. The Patriots are -1.5.
I actually heard Cowherd. I've probably caught 4 minutes of his show today, and he was talking about that game, and he was all in on the Pats.
Really?
Yeah. He talked about how Belichick's had a really good record against Tomlin. They played bad, they played bad at Miami. Thinks Tomlin's group's not that,
I don't think the Pats are that good this year, though, either.
and Tomlin's got what, rookie QB? Oh no, he's got Trubisky. Because the rookie QB, couldn't really beat it. Yeah.
I would lean Steelers here.
Okay.
So we'll just take all three dogs.
Okay.
How did this differ from what you guys ended up on the bottom line there, Clint?
We have not done it yet.
Oh, okay. Well, you're welcome.
Yeah, I'm just doing.
What are you
opposite.
saving it for Friday?
We got tomorrow.
Yeah, is there any of those Thursday games? Either of those?
No.
No.
The
Chargers
Chiefs
Chiefs
that's
is
right.
these Thursday. We'll have
It's
that
written-
for you on.
It's written right there.
It is? Yeah.
See it right there?
Mhm.
I choose to look at you when I ask the question. I ask you that you look over at the whiteboard instead of making me turn my head 45 degrees. So could you tell me who's playing tomorrow night?
You do kind of have the short stick here in terms of like seat placement, because I can look at you and see Clint and the board pretty much all at one time. Not that seeing Clint is some kind of bonus. That should be more of a negative than anything else.
Dang, bro.
He looked genuinely
Yeah,
hurt.
that was kind of funny, wasn't it?
He looked.
How could you?
He looked genuinely
How
wounded.
dare you? I thought we were better than that, right, Clint?
This on the
My
chat
headphones are
line.
coming off now. Get Lynn in here.
That's all right. Somebody come run this board. We're about to go drag.
Whoever is complaining about Mahomes in the Ring of Honor needs to chill and be happy for the guy. Just be happy there is someone out there that represents Lubbock and Texas Tech in a positive way.
Yep, and he does do that.
This in the chat line: I'll never devolve to the point where every other athlete was 5'1" and horrible. You might not, but others will. However, there's also no way that I can blame Mahomes for the defense while he was here, regardless of the standard quarterbacks are held to.
You've been listening to the Tech Talk podcast from Double T 97.3. Check out Double T973.com for more from Lubbock Sports Station.